Hello, dear viewers watching RTD's English News Edition. Here are our top stories for this evening. It was this morning at the Palace of the Republic the head of state receives his counterpart, William Ruto. In at the National Assembly, President William Ruto addresses the parliamentarians. And in Kenya, sustainable cities in the spotlight. Thank you for joining us in our newsroom. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, welcomed this morning at the Palace of the Republic his Kenyan counterpart, Mr. William Ruto, who is on a 24-hour official visit to Djibouti under the banner of strengthening relations between the two countries. More details in this video.
The Kenyan president's visit to Djibouti is the first since his election last August and comes in the context of strengthening the privileged relation and partnership between the two countries in various sectors. On his arrival at the Palace of the Republic, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, warmly welcomed his Kenyan counterpart, Mr. Ruto, who arrived in Djibouti yesterday to begin an official visit at the head of a large ministerial delegation from his country. The visit of the President of Kenya, Mr. William Samuel Ruto, was accorded the highest diplomatic status, with the special feature of such a visit including a guards of honor, a review of troops, and the playing of the Kenyan national anthem by our country's guard of honors at the Palace of the Republic, followed by a review of troops by the head of state and his Kenyan counterpart. The Republic of Djibouti and Kenya share the same vision, and the two countries are increasing their closeness through the sphere of roles they played in resolving the main issues on the agenda in the countries and the Horn of Africa, including the catastrophic situation in Sudan, the promotion of regional peace and security, and the fight against extremism and terrorism. Member of the government, Djibouti is foreign diplomatic corps and several high-ranking civilian and military officials were on the hand to extend a warm welcome to the President of Kenya.
In following this event, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, had a first one-on-one meeting with his Kenyan counterpart, Mr. William Ruto. More details in this report.
The President of the Republic is meeting with his counterparts of Kenya was a bilateral one, and the two heads of state also discussed ways and means of further deepening the already privileged relation between the two countries and people. Discussions were focused on ways of maximizing the return of the major development project on which the two sides are already working together, capitalizing on key sectors and strengthening exchange of experience and knowledge in the field of logistics, trade, and energy.
And the one-on-one talks between the presidents of Djibouti and Kenya were preceded by an extended working meeting with the respective collaborators of the two heads of states. Details in this report.
At the extended meeting of the two delegations, the discussion between the two presidents and their respective delegations were focused on strengthening bilateral relations, extending economies and trade exchange to all sectors, and also bringing Djibouti and Kenya's strategy partnership to an even more efficient level. During this large meeting, the President of the Republic and his Kenyan counterpart mutually reiterate their respective determination to continue working towards strengthening the level of exchange and collaboration between their two countries and their two people. The meeting provides an opportunity to take stock of Djibouti-Kenya relation and the partnership between the two countries. Kenya relation and the partnership between the two, and also the question of a joint community set up to accelerate partnership and collaboration was at the heart of exchange between the two heads of state and their respective delegation. Several members of Kenyan government attend the enlarged meeting, including the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Kenya, Mr. Alfred Mutua, the Minister of Defense, and several senior Kenyan officials. On the Djibouti side, the meeting was attended by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mr. Mohammed Ali Yusuf, the Minister of Defense, Hassan Umar Mohammed, and several other officials.
Speaking at the two delegations meeting, the Kenyan President, Mr. William Ruto, said that the partnership between the two countries are based on Pan-African values of solidarity and self-determination in order to strengthen the necessary foundations for sustainable relations and strategic partnership between our two countries. Let's hear it from President Ruto.
For the hospitality extended to me and to my delegation. Your officials were exceptional when they received us in this great city. And I want to promise you, Your Excellency, that I register my appreciation for that robust reception extended to me. As you have said, Mr. President, Kenya and Djibouti enjoy warm and cordial relations anchored on a Pan-Africanist values of solidarity, subsidiarity, and the self-determination for all as the mechanism for us to have shared prosperity and progress. You remember, Mr. President, that in 2018, Kenya and Djibouti signed an agreement on mutual visa exemption for diplomatic passport holders and service providers. This framework was to be operational upon completion of our internal processes. I am aware the internal processes have been completed, and with your concurrence, the agreement is ready to enter into force. However, as I explained to you earlier, Mr. President, I am persuaded that to be meaningful, the scope of free visa regime must include holders of ordinary passports, as this will enhance free movement of people, ideas, goods, services, and it will also increase people-to-people interactions and enhanced trade and investment. Mr. President, I want to commit to Kenya's expanding this scope to allow your citizens to visit Kenya without the need of a visa. Your Excellency, Kenya has for decades invested enormous resources to train, skill, and equip human capital. There is tremendous mutual benefit for our two countries to leverage on this very important resource. I thank you, Mr. President, for hosting over 600 Kenyans who live and work in your beautiful country. Djibouti is our neighborhood.
Yes.
So I think we will begin with the officials, with the first 300 students. They can attend college in Nairobi and pay the same fees as Kenyan students. I'm also aware, Mr. President, that discussions have taken place regarding the need to support English, especially training of English language and its integration into your curriculum. And to enhance language competence for our graduates necessary for working abroad, Kenya will appreciate French language trainees from Djibouti to be embedded in our technical training colleges and medical training colleges because we have a lot, many Kenyans who go to countries that are French-speaking, and we would benefit from teachers who can come and help in our institutions where we are preparing people for labor, for them to learn French.
That was the speech of President William Ruto. As for the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, the visit of his counterpart reflects a desire and commitment to consolidate the privileged partnerships between the Republic of Djibouti and Kenya. Here's what the President of the Republic stated.
Brother William Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, it is with a real pleasure and a deep sense of satisfaction that I welcome you to Djibouti today, as well as your distinguished delegation. First of all, I would like to convey to you, Mr. President and dear brother, the warm and heartfelt greetings of the people of Djibouti, and through you to the brotherly people of Kenya. Our countries have a rich and promising relationship, which I am pleased to mention here. This is why your presence here today honors us. Indeed, it attests, on the one hand, to your desire to share with us these privileged and historic moments, and testifies, on the other hand, of our common aspiration to consolidate these relations. I would like to seize this opportunity to assure your Excellency of my continuous efforts towards enhancing political, economic, and social cooperations with our sisterly country, the Republic of Kenya. We have laid the foundation for more regular and comprehensive exchanges and meetings between our government officials in order to fast-track their full implementation. It is a particular source of satisfaction to me that this second joint ministerial meetings consolidated critically important areas identified during my last visit in 2018, namely geothermal cooperation, trade, transport, with the resumption of direct flight between our capitals, vocational trainings, and tourism. Besides anchoring these relations, it has also enabled us to further explore a wide-ranging new sector such as immigration, defense, coast guards, justice, livestock, etc. I am pleased to hear that the discussions were extensive and fruitful, and I welcome the resounding success of the second joint ministerial meetings, as well as the signing of 4 new agreements and memorandum of understanding under the following areas.
And after the working bilateral meeting between the two delegations, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, co-hosted an important ceremony for the signing of bilateral agreements between the two countries, together with his counterpart, Mr. William Ruto. More details in this report.
The ceremony for the signing of bilateral agreement between the two countries took place at the Palace of the Republic. The agreement primarily covered 4 sectors such as energy, tourism, cultural cooperation, and diplomatic training. The agreement were signed by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mr. Mohammed Ali Yusuf, and his Kenyan counterpart, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Kenya, Mr. Alfred Mutua. These agreements are aimed at intensifying the pace of exchange and consultation between the two countries. One of the key provisions of agreement is the visa extension for holders of diplomatic passports and Djiboutian citizens' passports from both countries. The adoption of these agreements reflects the willingness of both countries to significantly strengthen their friendly relation and cooperation. Djibouti and Kenya are both committed to leveraging several aspects, particularly in the economic sphere, which exhibit a highly complementary profile.
After the signing of the bilateral agreements, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, and his Kenyan counterpart held a joint press conference to address questions from the media. Here's what the Kenyan President shared.
Again to Djibouti. My question is, what the main issue that you discussed with the President to consolidate your relation, Kenya and Djibouti? Thank you.
Our two teams went through the various aspects of the relationship between Djibouti and Kenya the last 2 days. Subsequent to the first JCC that was held in 2010, the second JCC was held yesterday, and it spoke to many of the areas that are important to Djibouti and to Kenya. Amongst them is the subject of energy, which we have discussed this morning between KenGen of Kenya and ODEC of Djibouti on the possibility of geothermal power energy in Djibouti. I have committed that Kenya, through KenGen, will work with ODEC and the government of Djibouti in concluding that whole exercise and making sure that power is delivered.
And in response to a question by an Al Jazeera journalist regarding the situation in Sudan, at the end, the three-party role played by Djibouti, Kenya, and South Sudan in establishing a ceasefire in Sudan, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, expressed the importance of awaiting the summit of heads of state and government of IGAD member countries before making any pronouncements on the situation in Sudan. He said that we need to engage in consultations with the President of Kenya, the President of South Sudan, and myself to assess the current situation and formulate an appropriate strategy for a ceasefire in Sudan, stated the President of the Republic, Ismail Omar Guelleh. The President of the National Assembly, Mr. Dileta Mohamed Dileta, has warmly welcomed the President of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto, who came to deliver a speech at the National Assembly. More details in this video.
The President of the Republic of Kenya's visit to the National Assembly is part of his official visit to our country. The ceremony was attended by the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, member of the government, a representative of the Republic institution, the Prefect of Djibouti and the Interior Region, the highest civil and military dignitaries, and representative of diplomatic and consular corps accredited to Djibouti. On the agenda was an address by Kenya's President, Mr. William Ruto, who had been introduced earlier after signing memorandum in a one-on-one meeting and exchanging traditional gift. The President of the Assembly closed the special session on the protocol visit of His Excellency, Mr. William Ruto, President of Kenya.
In his welcoming speech, the President of the National Assembly, Dileta Mohamed Dileta, commended the substantial advancements in the bilateral relations between the two nations. Mr. Dileta Mohamed Dileta underscored the importance of bolstering and solidifying bilateral cooperation across various domains, along with the need for consultation and cooperation on matters of mutual concern at regional and international levels. And after receiving an standing ovation, the President of Kenya made a speech in which he underlined the historic relations between Djibouti and his country.
The very warm greetings from the people and government of the Republic of Kenya to this august assembly and to the great people of Djibouti. Let me take this opportunity to reiterate before this House the deep appreciation by the government of Kenya and myself for the high compliment from my dear brother, His Excellency President Ismail Omar Guelleh, President of the Republic of Djibouti, by his invitation to me to undertake an official visit to this wonderful country and for the warm welcome and delightful hospitality extended to my delegation and I since our arrival yesterday. We are grateful for the gracious consideration and we do not take anything for granted. Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank you for the extraordinary privilege of this opportunity to address this House, which is also a tremendous honor for the people of Kenya. This is a remarkable gesture which demonstrates and affirms the strong, warm, fraternal relations between our two nations, our two peoples, and testify to our mutual trust and friendship based on shared values. For 46 years, Kenya and Djibouti have enjoyed strong bilateral relations conducted in various spheres of endeavor and anchored on robust diplomatic engagement. The commercial trade and investment ties have been growing and indicate potential to involve greater numbers of people and firms and larger volumes of capital in the years to come. It is a fact of history and historical record that Kenya and Djibouti are founding members of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, a regional organization which has made significant and positive contribution to the peace, stability, and development of our region, and which continues to drive the region's pivotal agenda in conflict early warning, mediation, and conflict resolution, counterterrorism, food security, environmental production, economic cooperation, and regional integration, among other transformative interventions. I take great pride in citing the achievements of IGAD in this region, especially in terms of coordinating our partnership and managing our complementarities to reinforce our shared commitment and deliver opportunities for the achievement of peace, stability, security, resilience of agriculture and food systems, environmental sustainability and adaptation to our unique and dynamic climate as preconditions for the socio-economic transformation of our region. IGAD's ability to be consistent and effective in a context characterized by intensifying geostrategic complexity points us towards the quality of solidarity required for regional organizations like IGAD and multilateral institutions to meet the needs of our time. I am happy to state that Kenya and Djibouti remain united in their commitment to strengthen the critical regional mechanism like IGAD. I therefore take this opportunity to thank the government of Djibouti for its steady commitment and unwavering support for IGAD, especially as the organization's gracious host.
Also, in his address, the Kenyan president pointed out that in addition to IGAD, Kenya and Djibouti share the common goal of promoting peace and stability in the Horn of Africa through other mechanisms.
Aside from IGAD, Kenya and Djibouti are brought together by a common goal of promoting peace and stability in the Horn of Africa through other mechanisms. We are both troop-contributing countries for efforts aimed at stabilizing Somalia and combating terrorism through the Africa Union's transition mission in Somalia, ATMIS, as well as its precursor, the Africa Union mission in Somalia, AMISOM. These efforts represent our shared commitment to collaborate consistently in the pursuit of our mutual interests, bilaterally, regionally, multilaterally, for the benefits of our peoples. The Horn of Africa has endured its worst prolonged, devastating drought on record. As a result, our countries have sustained unprecedented loss and damage to infrastructure, property, and livelihoods, as well as threats to human security. Millions of animals have perished due to loss of pasture and water. As a result, millions of people have been displaced, impoverished, and pushed to the brink of starvation by unprecedented climatic phenomena, utterly beyond their control and capacity to understand, adapt, or mitigate. What we are experiencing in terms of such extreme weather and climatic conditions are nothing more than the adverse impacts of climate change arising from the discharge into the atmosphere of greenhouse gases by the manufacturing industries of Western economies and industrial powers. The science of the matter is now clear and direct. First, the rise in global temperatures that is distorting climate patterns and occasioning catastrophe throughout the world is a consequence of industrial emissions. Secondly, global economic patterns amply demonstrate the connection between the greatest emitters, responsible for over 95% of these dangerous discharges, and the greatest rate of consistent economic growth. Thirdly, Africa, the lowest emitter and beneficiary of polluting industrial enterprises, is suffering the most intense, frequent, and devastating of the consequences of climate change. Aside from the terrible effects of extreme weather phenomena, including flooding and droughts, climate-related disease outbreaks, and erratic weather patterns, African countries have been forced to contribute more than their fair share of national resources to necessary adaptation efforts. At the moment, the continent is losing more than 10% of our GDP to adverse impacts of climate change. At present rates, Africa will forego all prospects of development through economic growth as more and more of our resources go towards coping with climate change just to guarantee the survival of our people. The injustice of the matter is monumental and staggering. 54 countries only contribute 4% of greenhouse gas emissions, yet they have to bear the brunt of loss and damage arising from the unabated rise in global temperatures.
Still in the national news, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, hosted a luncheon for his Kenyan counterpart, William Ruto, in his delegation. This luncheon is part of the various stages of the official visit being conducted by the Kenyan head of state to Djibouti. An artistic troupe provided entertainment throughout the luncheon, which was attended by officials from both countries, as well as eminent personalities including civil society, leaders, and intellectuals. This official visit by the Kenyan president aims to reaffirm his belief in the two countries' capacity to rapidly enhance their levels of exchange and cooperation. And thereafter, the Kenyan President William Ruto visited Djibouti Telecom's Haramuz station. The president, who is in Djibouti as part of the IGAD summit, was welcomed by the Director General of Djibouti Telecom, Mohamed Assowi Bouh, and senior Djibouti Telecom managers. The station is home to Djibouti Telecom's key infrastructure, such as cables which connect Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, as well as Europe. These infrastructures serve Djibouti, the sub-region, the region, and the world. Djibouti Telecom's top executives also promoted the DARE 1 cable. This regional cable is being built between Djibouti and Kenya. Djibouti is now directly connected to Kenya via the DARE 1 cable. And now moving on to the arrivals of heads of states and eminent personalities to Djibouti. The President of the Federal Republic of Somalia, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, arrived in Djibouti this afternoon to take part in the ordinary summit of the IGAD member countries. On his arrival, President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud was welcomed by the Minister of Communication in charge of Postal and Telecommunications, Redwan Abdullahi Badon, and the Executive Secretary of IGAD. The President then had a brief meeting with the Minister of Communication, the IGAD Executive Secretary in the airport's VIP lounge. The summit opens tomorrow at the Djibouti Palace Campeski. Also, the President Salva Kiir of South Sudan also landed at Djibouti International Airport this afternoon to attend the IGAD summit, which opens tomorrow at the Campeski Palace Hotel. President Salva Kiir was welcomed by the Minister of Justice, Ali Hassan Bahdon, and the Executive Secretary of IGAD. President Kiir, the Minister of Justice, and the IGAD Executive Secretary had a brief meeting in the airport VIP lounge. Also participating in the summit, the President of the African Union Commission, Mr. Moussa Faki, arrived today at Dombolo International Airport. As he stepped off the plane, the Chairman of the African Union, Mr. Moussa Faki, was warmly welcomed by the Minister of Energy, Younis Ali Gedi. The Chairman of the African Union Commission, Mr. Moussa Faki, and the Minister of Energy then had a brief meeting in the airport's VIP lounge. Discussions focused on cooperation between Djibouti and the African Union and ways of strengthening it further. The Chairman of the African Union Commission, Mr. Moussa Faki, will attend the IGAD summit, which opens in Djibouti at the Campeski Hotel on June 12 tomorrow. In part of the eminent personalities participating in the summit, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Uganda arrived this evening. The Foreign Minister was warmly welcomed by the Minister of Higher Education in a brief meeting. The discussions focused on cooperation between Djibouti and Uganda, as well as ways to further strengthen them. It was this morning that the 2023 baccalaureate exams have begun in Djibouti, with over 8,000 candidates from various fields taking part. The baccalaureate exams are taking place in over 24 examination centers across the country. The Ministry of National Education and Vocational Training has ensured the smooth operation of the exams with the support of teachers and administrative staff. Additionally, the Ministry has coordinated with local authorities and educational institutions to provide a conducive environment for the exams. The transportation of exam papers was carefully handled with police escort to maintain confidentiality. The Ministry commends the dedicated efforts of all personnel involved in ensuring the successful administration of the 2023 baccalaureate exams. And now in our regional news, in Nairobi, the capital of Kenya, is still known as the Green City in the Sun. The mega city stands at 1,795 meters above sea level and enjoys mild temperatures all year round. This week, the city hosted the city hosted the second session of the United Nations Habitat Assembly, an opportunity to identify the architecture of a sustainable cities taking advantage of the opportunity offered by nature. A haven of peace for flora and fauna in the middle of the city, it extends over 117 square kilometers. Considered the only park in the world located in a capital city, it is threatened by a population growth. At a time when cities around the world are facing the challenges of man-made climate change, peripheral areas still offer a healthy way of life. Many cities around the world have pledged to plant more carbon-absorbing trees to help combat climate change. And that's all for this news. Thank you for joining us on the radio television of Djibouti and have a wonderful evening.